Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely possible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back once again. It is the return, once more, of your Monday Evening Madness here at Premier Sim Gaming Leagues. This is PSGL PSF1 for round 3 of season 43. That's a hell of a lot of championships. And we are back for the Belgian Grand Prix. We head back over to Europe. We started in Silverstone a couple of weeks ago. Then we headed over to Shanghai, which was an interesting one. A lot of drivers battering each other and knocking 10 bells out of each other. We return to Spa, another legendary circuit, but one that may be affected by the battery games we've been seeing on the F126 DLC. But looking forward to it. Third round of the season. We've got some championship standings to update you on as well, and all of the other nitty-gritty we get our teeth sunk into. And commandeering Commentary Corner. Once again, myself, Tom Wilkinson, Ewan Paul alongside me. Ewan, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to this evening. It should be another interesting race. And of course, last week we saw a pretty chaotic race in Shanghai. So yeah, looking forward to it. And a race like Spa, it's going to be very interesting to see with the battery games. It's quite a battery limited track. So yeah, anything can happen and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, two very interesting races, I think, because Silverstone set the bar pretty high. Then Shanghai was probably more chaotic, surprisingly, considering what we would have expected from Silverstone. But yeah, went over the line a couple of times, even though no post-race penalties were handed out and there were only a couple of stewards' inquiries, one of which was for Finlay, who had all sorts, a litany of lag problems that hampered himself and quite a lot of other people around. But let's have a look, firstly, at where we're going to be heading over the next few weeks, because in a week's time, we will not be here because we have our one and only break week. Started in Silverstone, then to Shanghai and Spa, triple S's to kickstart the season. Then 13th of August, no it won't be, it'll be the 17th of August, we will head over to the new Madrid circuit, the Madring, or the Madring, depending on how you want to pronounce it. That track is interesting, in an interesting state at the moment, for Austria, Imola, Las Vegas, Mexico City, Bahrain, Texas, Brazil, Bahrain and Texas to round out our 11 race calendar. 8 weeks in a row of league racing. That's going to be quite the marathon for our drivers, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be very intense for the drivers all the way to the finish line of this championship. And I think those races from Mexico to Bahrain are going to be the turning point, or just the point in the season where it's either won or lost. I think with there not being a break for 8 consecutive weekends, it's going to be a lot for the drivers. It's going to be hard to be consistent, but if you are consistent, you're going to reap the rewards. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Of course, Madrid after the break next week, so that is going to be pretty chaotic, I would assume, because if we see chaos in a normal track like China, at a new track like Madrid, anything can happen.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of races at Madrid, and they've been interesting, to say the least. So we'll just hold our breath, our bated breath, for that one in a fortnight's time. But from the calendar, let's have a look at the drivers that have been pounding their way around the circuits. 2 races so far, and it is after getting the full house a week ago in China. Pole position and the race win. Melvin Effman, who leads the way on 22 points. 4 clear of Matt, who's been fairly consistent with a 4th and a 3rd place. Finlay winning the season opener, but having that stinker with his connection, meaning he was only 15th at the flag, ahead of Luis Matievich, who was the driver that finished just behind him on the road in Silverstone. And then on to Zito, getting their first points of the season, a 2nd place after a 16th in Silverstone. But if you look down the standings, what I think is really interesting is we've only got 4 drivers that scored points in round 1 and round 2. A lot of drivers having a really good race, somebody like Otsuzita in round 2 in China, and having a stinker in round 1. So consistency, you think, might be the way that you're going to try and rack up these points and get yourself into a championship fight.
Yeah, exactly. Like you see Matt up in P2, he's had a 4th and a 3rd, and he's up in 2nd place, and he is only 4 points off the top. So yeah, I think consistency will be proven to be pretty crucial for victory and for a championship fight this season. So yeah, that is pretty intriguing. Otsuzito in 5th, of course, not having a good Silverstone, but I think he's shown a lot of potential. He was looking good in qualifying around Silverstone, and then in Shanghai he finally got what he deserved with that P2, even after almost getting taken out at turn 1 there in Shanghai. So yeah, he did a good job, and I think he's one to look out for going into this weekend.
Definitely should be an exciting one. If you're interested in the constructors as well, level pegging McLaren and Alpine heading up the table, both with 22 points. Then you've got Red Bull on 19, Ferrari with 17, and Audi on 14. 3 teams yet to get off the starting blocks, that being Haas, Cadillac, and Williams. As we just wait for the drivers to load into the lobby, I think we're waiting for a couple. One of them, I believe, is our championship leader, Melvin Efferman. We're going to head over and have a look at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit. You all know it, but we do have to have a little bit of a readjustment with our imaginations and with our expectations heading into this 26 DLC, because battery management is going to be key. That middle sector in particular for the recharging, you're going to have to be really precise with where you use your battery. Do you dump it all down the Kemmel Straight coming out of La Source and into the Les Combe chicane, or do you save it and then you come out of Port-Paul Frere? It's a mouthful, that term. Then you have that long run. You blast through Blanchimont up towards the bus stop chicane. Really long run as well. 2 very interesting tactics, and drivers going to have to have their smarts, let's say, with the way they manage this battery, like we saw in Silverstone.
Yeah, of course, like we've already mentioned so many times this season, battery is going to be pretty important for the drivers here, and especially at a track like Spa, where there's such long straights, that Kemmel Straight, and even from turn 1 to turn 5, you're pretty much flat out. So the battery will be getting drained throughout those corners, So yeah, it's going to be really, really crucial to save that battery, but also you do need to use it towards the Kemmel Strait, because in Sector 2 there's not as many places to deploy the battery, so you can actually save quite a bit through that second sector. So I expect a lot of battery to be drained down that Kemmel Strait, but of course you can't use too much, because if not, you'll be compromised into the second sector, where maybe someone would be eager to go for a move, maybe a surprise corner, like maybe no name corner, or something like that. So maybe even Puon, we could see moves into there. So there's give or take with these regulations, with these batteries, whether you like it or not, it gives you different racing. And so yeah, it should be very interesting to see who gets that battery right and what the different battery strategies that the drivers use.
Opportunities for people to be a little bit creative with it. And of course, we need to talk about the strategy going into this as well. I haven't yet heard the beeps to say that we're loading in, but I don't think we're far away. From what we've seen so far, undercut really, really powerful. The hard-medium strategy, going for that longer run, hasn't worked out too much for people. Getting track position proved to be very important around a circuit like this, where it might be similar to what we saw in Silverstone, where if you do get stuck in the pack, you end up in that battery war. You're dumping, you're recharging, you're dumping again, trying to get away or trying to work your way through the traffic. That in turn loses you so much time, because everybody else is doing that as well. So if you can get that undercut, you get the trap position, put a little bit of distance between yourself and that raging pack behind, that gives you such a leg up going into the second half of the race.
Yeah, and of course it's such a long lap around here, so that boosts that undercut advantage, because you have a lot of time to make up. You've got a 1 minute 40 lap time that you can use to your advantage, so you can gain a lot of time through the lap, but that also means that you're costing yourself more tyre wear than your opponents around you, so you might be at a disadvantage later on in the race, because you have more tyre wear and it will be less pace. So yeah, it's going to be very crucial to get that undercut, get that strategy right, and the harder medium does seem pretty unlikely around here.
And it's interesting as well, we are still yet to see our reigning champion Snacks, who has dropped down to be a reservist this season, but we do have the champion from season 41 making an appearance for the first time this season. That will of course beat Volakongen, if you can remember back to season 41. Missed the first half, I think, of last season in their title defence. But we are ready to get going in qualifying. 19 drivers in the garages. That is the number that we expect to be going forth with. 80 minutes on the clock for our short, I was going to say one shot, and it technically is one shot, even though we've only got the one session. Short qualifying session. Then we have our 50%, 22 lap race here around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And typically, as it usually is for a Belgian Grand Prix, looks like there might be a little bit of weather around. Very, very cloudy, overcast conditions just above us. First add-on to the circuit is the Alpine of, I believe it is Volakongen. First time we've seen Volakongen this season.
Yeah, that's going to be good for him to get out on track early. We've seen the Haas of Kevin normally out there pretty early, so it's nice to see someone else taking the reins of taking the first lap on track in qualifying. So yeah, of course, like you said, ex-champion in PSGL, so it's going to be all eyes on him to see what he can do and how he can fare against this grid at the moment.
Be interesting to see what pace Volakongen has got. Usually not the best over one lap, although pretty darn decent still, but it's his racecraft and his race pace and his race IQ. That was what won him that championship back in season 41. He said season 42. Most drivers out on circuit, just 5 still seeking refuge in the pit lane. Make that 4 as Pierre Sharp emerges in the Ferrari. And this is a qualifying lap around Spa that probably doesn't have the excitement that it once would have done back in the olden days, maybe 20 or so years ago, when you were really on the ragged edge in those lightweight cars. Not a lot of downforce, didn't have to recharge the battery as well at certain points, especially through that middle sector, where those high-speed corners, you can carry still so much speed through the double left-hander of Puon into the Fania chicane as well, even the Les Combes chicane at the start of the middle sector, and then of course up through Eau Rouge and Radion as well.
Yeah, and we'll have to wait and see to see if there's any battery recharging going on at Eau Rouge. I hope not, because those are incredible corners for racing and for just watching on a qualifying lap, them sending it through Eau Rouge and Radion. So yeah, let's see what happens as Volakongen on his first lap of the session. No lifting off here, a gear down to 7th. But still on the battery, so he is absolutely rinsing that battery, almost down to 10% now. So he is going for that strategy, and as he goes up to Les Combes, turn 7 to 9, it's going to be very crucial to get these corners right. But not as crucial as other tracks, because you have so many corners around here. Such a long track that you can maybe make a mistake, but still make up for it later in the lap.
You can really see the lifting off there, half throttle and then the full lift into the Les Combes chicane, doing the same down into Rivage and into No Name. Back of the car stepping out just a little bit over the curb, but now you've got to hurl it into Pooh on the double left-hander, just cranking on off steering, not keeping it within the white lines. This could be a corner in the race where we need to watch out for some track limit invalidations. Then down into 13 and 14 of the Fanier chicane. Again, the back just going a little bit light midway through the first part of the chicane, and then into Stavelot 1 to commence the final sector. Decent so far from Volocong. Looked like a steady lap time so far, maybe leaving a little bit on the table. Has recharged some battery in that middle sector, but definitely not going to feel the full force of that electric motor in the car on the run through. Blanchimont already out of here. As you can see, they're dropping it down one cog into 7th. We head down into the bus stop chicane. Usually a pretty tricky traction zone, especially over the curves. Really throwing the car into the first part. Back again. Just a little bit lively, not once but twice. Using the exit curb and the benchmark time. 44.003 for Volocong. We'll see what the others can manage. And Kevin straight into the 43s.
Yeah, that looked like a traditional banker lap from Volocong in there. Just a few little mistakes here and there with the rear end, but still putting a decent lap in. But the other Alpine, Melwin, won last time out, got pole, and he's got right into the 43s. 43.5. Legion goes P2 on the Williams, 43.7. So all to play for on these banker laps, but Melwin once again showing some superb pace.
Predestinato and Otzazito quick as well. Chiquita goes to P4, make that P5 as Polly Mackie now joins Melwin Effman on the front row. This is Ryder out in the Aston Martin. Pole sitter from Silverstone a couple of weeks ago. Definitely got the speed over one lap, but only 8th fastest as things stand, as the McLaren of Finlay to the line goes 5th on a 43.6. Still lots of drivers looking to set the timing charts alight. Luis Matievich in the Mercedes, 7th fastest, 143.6. 12 times on the board. Gabbers in the Cadillac slots in just behind Volokongan in the race for the wooden spoon as we join the McLaren of Kazizel coming through Corporal Frere. As not Barlu Luke goes 10th fastest, just ahead of his Aston Martin teammate.
Yeah, Matt on a lap as well in the Red Bull, of course, second in the championship as well. But Pierre Sharp takes a provisional pole. But what can Matt do? Matt up to P7, 43.6, less than 2 tenths between 1st and 7th at the moment. So it is pretty close here in Spa.
Kazizel with a slide out of the bus stop chicane can only manage 9th. Lucas with an invalidation. We chuck to the Mercedes of Ward Abushal around the bus stop chicane. We fly and cutting the beam. 44.099, slowest of the 17 times we've had so far. White Jeep has just started a lap time in the Williams. And this is a circuit, I haven't mentioned it yet. You should be able to get your 3 flying laps in. But because you are a little bit tight for time, you don't want to dawdle, you don't want to dilly-dally, you don't want to leave yourself under pressure, because you could get to a position where you're so out of sync with everybody else that you do miss that final lap time. White Sheep's only just coming into the middle sector. We've already got drivers getting back to the pit lane to prepare for their second run.
Yeah, definitely. It does put you under pressure going a little bit later than your rivals around a track like this, because, yeah, it's a long lap, and just a full fast lap is 1 minute 44. You'd expect a small out lap or in lap to be around 2 minutes. So yeah, it's costly coming out here a little bit later than your rivals, but he's opting for a bit more track evolution than the cars around him. But he's going to have to charge back to the pit lane if he wants all 3 runs here.
Yeah, chart fastest at the moment, 43.4. Championship lead at second as things stand. Polymaki, Predestinato and Otzazita rounding out your top 5, all of them 43.5s. White Sheep a little bit down through the first couple of sectors on the times that are really compressed. He'll be looking to get into, or challenging perhaps, those mid 143s in that Williams through Blanchimont. No win here as exciting as it used to be. Just a couple of corners left to fly through. It is, of course, the reprofiled from 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago now, bus stop chicane. A little bit wide through the first part of it, putting the power down as we come towards the line, and it's a 43.6 for White Sheep, just inside the top 10. So 18 of the 19 times on the board so far. Just Lucas, who invalidated, returning to the pits as drivers emerging once again, their second attempts.
Yeah, a decent lap from White Sheep there, but he, like we said earlier, he's a little bit out of sync with everyone, with people going out onto laps now, so he's going to have to charge back to the pit lane if he wants 2 more runs on the board. But yeah, that's a decent lap from White Sheep. Of course, he hasn't been in the first or second rounds, but he comes here to the third round and he's showing some decent pace, and he is in the mix for those top 10 positions. So yeah, he'll be pretty happy with that, I think.
Yeah, if we're looking down the timing charts, anyone particularly out of position, Ryderdale down in P15 will be a little bit disappointed by that one. But you've got a lot of the big names towards the sharp end. Championship leader, P2. You've got Matt, second in the championship, P7 at the moment. They're in and around the right kind of ballpark. Be in a position to challenge when we get to the business end of this qualifying session. Melwin Effman just there behind one of the Williams cars heading through Pouon. I think that might be Legion, who is out on the circuit as well. Yes, there is Legion. There's an Audi just fluttering in the background behind Melwin 2, who I think is going to back off on this one. So will it be Legion or will it be Melwin to bolt on this brand new set of tyres and set us off for the second flying laps of the session?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting as all let's go back onto Volokongen, who is once again the first person to really go on a lap. But yeah, Legion as well, looking strong, and he's going to be wanting to improve on that lap. 43.7, he's around 2 tenths off the fastest lap, so it's not much, but he does need to find a little bit more if he wants to fight for the top 10.
That's the thing, you'd expect around a circuit like this the cars to be separated just that little bit more, just fanning out a little bit, but it's still incredibly tight as Legion starts their second attempt. Volokongen's just a little bit up the road in the Alpine, season 41 champion, first appearance of the campaign through the first sector. Volokongen up by 16 milliseconds, 30.994. It's not the first sector really where you lose all the time, it's the middle sector where if you get your battery management just ever so slightly wrong, puts you out of kilter for the rest of the flying lap. Bit of a wobble there for Legion coming up onto the Kemmel straight. We'll see if the Williams has found some time in sector 1. Got to be in the high 30s, 30.8, just a little bit down on their personal best, but still matching it blow for blow as things stand.
Yeah, of course you can't gain much in the first sector because it's only really one corner, turn 1, and then it's all the way flat out up to Lacoum. Yeah, so yeah, it's tough to gain time in that first sector. You just need to do as best you can with that turn 1 and follow the least line of resistance to save the most time. But it's in the second sector where all the time is, and all the time is to gain.
Volokongen still doesn't look particularly quick out there at the moment, only up by half a tenth through the first couple of sectors. Legion heading into Stavolo 1 and Stavolo 2, up by 2 tenths, nearly a quarter of a second. Looking like a good time from the Williams as Volokongen through the bus stop chicane. 16th for the Alpine, becomes 14th. Does get into the 43s, but still a long way from the pace that is required. Now, what has Legion got left in the tyres, and what has Legion got left in the battery as well? Active Aero open. On the run down into the bus stop chicane. Second attempt, little bit wide through the first part of the bus stop. Pushes him offline through the second part. Pulling gears up to the line. Nothing more you can do. Stays 10th fastest. Or jumps into top 10, sorry, just ahead of his teammate White Sheep. And there is the championship leader. Melwin Effman takes a big chunk out of his personal best. Chiquita up into third fastest. For Audi, 43.5 though, still 2 tenths down on Melwin Effman's benchmark, with Predestinato now 43.4, goes second fastest, displaces the Ferrari of Pierre Chart, former pole sitter, up by 100th of a second through the first sector.
Yeah, Polymaki is looking good as well. He's up by a tenth in that second sector, but he has to get this bus stop chicane right. Otsuzito goes up to P2. What can Polymaki do? Polymaki up to P4, so the lap times are tumbling, but it's familiar faces up front with Melwin, 43.3 just ahead of Otsuzito.
Pierre Chart up by just under a tenth through sectors 1 and 2. This could be really tight. Can he try and chip away at it a little bit more through this final sector? It's only really the bus stop chicane where there's any real technical driving challenge for the drivers. Flat as you like through Blanchimont, through 17 and 18 and up towards the bus stop. We fly with the Scarlet Ferrari. Matt out of nowhere lowers the benchmark by a further 400ths of a second. 43.304. Can the former provisional pole sitter snatch it back in the Scarlet Ferrari? P7 becomes P5. Pierre Chart finds 3/4 of a tenth, still slower than his teammates, still down on the time he needs to get back to the top of the timing charts. Luis Matijevic just a couple of seconds earlier with a 43.4 to go fourth fastest. We look back to Finlay, who might be out of sync and is out of sync, just completed the first sector, starting the middle sector, up by half a tenth, is the season 1 or the round 1 winner. Needs to find a little bit more, and that looks a bit wide through Rivage as well.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, struggling with lag last time out, he is looking for a better time this time out, because he showed some great potential in round 1 of this season. So yeah, if he can find some time, get in the mix, and we've seen that he can get in the mix in qualifying especially. So yeah, if he gets a good lap time and his lag's a little bit better this time out, he can definitely prove a little bit better and really get in the mix of the top 5.
Up by just under a tenth and a half. Needs to be in the 43.4s, you would think, to give himself a chance going into the final runs at the end of the session. With FRV dominance at the moment at the top. And the people in the chat absolutely loving that. We'll see if Finlay can disrupt that for SCI, not CSI Crime Scene Investigation, although there might be an inquest if he can't find the time in this final sector, and he bails on it. Jumping back into the pit, so doesn't fancy that one, maybe thinking as well, doesn't have the time to get back round. His teammate Kaziz also in a similar kind of boat, jumping into the pit lane as well, you would imagine. Did I say FRV? I meant FVR. Letters can sometimes be confusing, guys. Just leave it out. Leave it out. I was trying not to say CSI for SCI as well. So let's just hold back on that for the time being.
Yeah, but yeah, Finlay, not a surprise to see him back into the pit lane, because yeah, of course he wouldn't have had enough time to do a second lap, and but he's shown that he's got some time in the bank there. He was a 10th up before he went into the box, so he's got time in there. He just needs to execute it now.
You know what's annoying about calling it FRB is that I literally said to myself in my brain, make sure you don't pronounce this wrong, it's FVR, and then you still go and get it wrong. I had to concentrate so hard and still managed to mess it up. But the second runs of our qualifying session have come to a conclusion, as Ward Abishala in the Mercedes will return to pit road in P17 on a 43.8. Everybody barring Lucas in that 43 club. Lucas invalidating after the first runs, leaving themselves comfortably adrift at the back of the pack on that 44.1, but Ryder the first to emerge onto the circuit in the green machine. 43.6, pole sitter in round number 1. Needs to try and find some of that form. Only 11th fastest at the moment. Didn't qualify particularly well last week. I think was down in maybe P15 Ryder. Nikita onto the circuit as well. Pole time, I think we're probably looking at somebody maybe sneaking into the 43.2s. Whether it's Melwin Effman, championship leader, who's got a little bit more time on the table. Matt looking hooked up in the Red Bull as well. Pierre Charp get back into that pole position contention, just over a 10th down on the outright pace set by Matt. And we've still got the likes of Finlay, Chiquita and Polymac, who've shown some very decent speed over one lap as well. So many drivers still in the ballpark and in contention to trying to take this pole position.
Yeah, the leading 7 all within 0.2 of a second, so it's really not much at a track like this where it's so long, and you expect the gaps to be pretty large around a track like this. So yeah, it's still very close, so it's still all to play for here. It's not like last week where we saw Melwin kind of run away with it through all 3 laps last week. So yeah, still in the mix. Melwin is still looking good, and he could definitely find a pole position lap if he finds a great lap, but it's going to be tough for him because you've got healthy competition with Matt and Otzozito all separated by less than a tenth. So is it all to play for? Matt is looking good, and he can fully send it now because his banker lap is good enough for provisional pole.
We've got some racing on the outlap. Ryder allowing the Audi of Chiquita to move on through. So we will instead pick up the German manufacturer to start the final flying laps of the qualifying session. Round 3 of the season, 2 different winners, 2 different pole sitters so far. Who's going to add that name, or will it be a repeat pole position for Melwin Effman or for Ryder? Heading down into La Source with Chiquita. Front of the car sliding, understeering like a bit of a boat through La Source. And now you keep your throttle planted for the next 20 seconds or so. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion we fly for the final time at full chat. Doesn't drop it down into 7th, as we've seen a couple of drivers do on their flying laps. And onto the Kemmel Straight. Where will the half throttle, where will the lift and coasting start for Chiquita to try and regenerate that energy that he can deploy later on? There it is, 30.8 in the first sector, just a little bit under his personal best.
Yeah, he cuts the chicane there pretty nicely up at Lakeum, and he has to find some time down in 8th. He has been in the mix so far in qualifying so far this season, so I expect him to find some time in this last lap. P8 at the moment, but he's really not that far off to the top 5, so he could definitely find some time here, and it's in the second sector where all the time is after you need to save your battery, but you also need to drain it at times for this last sector, because if you don't have enough time for this last sector, then you're going to be in deep trouble.
Going to be knee deep in it if you find yourself further back than you were hoping for. Chiquita through the middle sector has lost a little bit of time, or maybe gained about 100th of a second. That's not really enough. Needs to find at least half a tenth to get up one position ahead of Polymaki, who's in the 43.4. So it doesn't look like it's going to be Chiquita challenging for pole position this week. We'll stay with the Audi up towards the bus stop chicane, see if there's any time you can try and nab in this final braking zone. Throw the car in, back sliding through the second part, or the first part, and that's probably done for Chiquita up to the line. Do we improve? We do, up to P5, so does still find time in that final sector, but still a little bit down as right out to the line just pips him by 2 milliseconds.
Yeah, that looked a little bit tentative from Chiquita there into the last sector, just losing the veer a little bit. That would have cost him less than a tenth or two. So yeah, unfortunately Pierre Sharp goes very wide as well, P6 at the moment, and that's going to be tough. Everyone crumbling under pressure here in this last sector, and he's lost 6 tenths in that last sector, so P6 will be the maximum today.
Throwing it away there with that slide through the bus stop. Now we return to the championship leader, Merwin Effman. Matt going well behind. Otzazito too. There is Otzazito back to the top of the timing charts. 43.2. Predestinato to P3. Somebody's been in the wall coming across the line. What can Effman do? Doesn't improve. Stays only P4. We wait for Luis Matijevic. We wait for Matt as well, who rounds the final corner up by a little bit through the first couple of sectors. Can't steal it back. Down by 300ths. Will it be the Silver Arrows? Charging to the line is Luis Matijevic. Finlay only 10th fastest. Matijevic dropping time in the final sector as his teammate just in the background. A big wobble out of the last corner. That leaves Ward Abishala staying down in 17th, returning to the pits. No, doing some donuts. I said he was on an outlap there. But it is Otzazito, who comes from the shadows, was there or thereabouts throughout the majority of the session, but with a big improvement, found a tenth of a second on his final flying lap to take it away from Matt and Predestinato with a good run too. Melwin Effman, championship leader in P4, but a really competitive qualifying session. Top 11, separated by less than 2 tenths. Polymaki Matijevic, Pierre Chart rided out, Chiquita setting exactly the same time as Finlay, and Kazizel all within 2 tenths of a second around one of the longest circuits on the calendar. White Sheep Kevin Legion, not Balu Luke, Gabbers, Ward Abishala, Volakongan and Lucas, who didn't find that improvement at the end, still stranded in the 44s. But a very, very exciting qualifying session, leaves lots up to the imagination heading into this race. A lot of drivers in contention, maybe more than we were perhaps thinking after what we've seen in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah, a fantastic lap for Mozzozito there to clinch pole position just about, and yeah, it was a great lap from the Ferrari man. His teammate down in 6th after his mistake into a bus stop chicane, so he's going to be ruining that mistake going into the race. But yeah, just a great lap for Mozzozito and Matt up there as well. And yeah, your championship leader Melwin down in 4th. So just not quite finding the lap time in that last lap to really challenge for pole today. So he's still in the mix, but it's really not ideal for him down on the 4th.
It's always a bad sign, isn't it, when 4th is considered an underachievement in qualifying, isn't it? But around a circuit like this, there are going to be opportunities for overtaking. These first couple of laps, as we saw in Silverstone, as we saw in Shanghai, can get a little bit wild. Not the longest of runs down into La Source. However, we have got a very long run coming out of La Source through Eau Rouge and Radion, up that massive incline, then barreling down the Kemmel Straight. Could be 3 wide, maybe 4 wide, depending on the battery usage. Then into the Les Combes chicane. Very, very easy for drivers to trip over one another, as it is through the pinch point of La Source at the start of the lap, especially since the runoff area was taken away a couple of years ago. And we have just got gravel on the left-hand side of the Mahusiv sausage curb that lies waiting. Somebody, perhaps, to just make a bit of a mess of it and stop playing F1 25 and start playing Tony Hawk Simulator over that sausage curb.
Yeah, of course, pole position is important, as always, but maybe not so important around a track like Spa because there's so much slipstream up to Lake Coombe and through Eau Rouge and Radion that if you're pole position, you're just going to be slipstreaming everyone behind you, and you're going to be vulnerable going into Lake Coombe chicane. And we've seen so many incidents there before in the past. So yeah, it's going to be tough for Otsazito to hold on to that pole position, but that's what they're here to do. They're here to race, and they're here to try hold on to their positions, or even try and make up positions. So Otsazito has a tough job to do. Let's see if he can do it.
Absolutely. For everybody jumping in, who are your predictions? Who are we fancying to take this? Are we going to see the leader out of turn 1 end up picking up the race win? Last week it was Melwin Effman who absolutely dominated all throughout qualifying and all throughout the 26-lap race at Shanghai. This time it's got a little bit more work to do though as the championship leader, starting in position number 4. Otsazito taking the money prize from qualifying, just ahead of Matt, the two drivers that managed to get into the 43.2s. With Predestinato, the wild card perhaps after yet to have a clean race so far. It's been really quick, especially in Silverstone a few weeks ago, but down to external factors, let's say, out of his control. Just found himself out of position one too many times. Hasn't picked up the points that necessarily his pace has shown is possible. Round 1 winner, Finlay, down in P10. Didn't have a great ride of it in Shanghai, but we prepare to do battle in Belgium. Ferrari versus Red Bull, and for the Belgian Grand Prix, we are racing. Otsazito on the left, Matt on the right, already the Ferrari trying to chop across the Red Bull, but having a look to the inside, door left wide open. Matt throws his nose into places not welcome. Mercedes getting squeezed out further back. I think that is Luis Matijevich under pressure, and the champion leader already trying to put one over on Predestinato, and does so. 3 wide in the background. Want to get out of that on the run up into Eau Rouge and Radion, but it's Otsazito from Matt, from Melwin, from Predestinato. But what order are they going to be by the time we slam the anchors on for the Lake Coombe chicane? Otsazito hovers in the middle of the road, looking for space. Is Melwin Effman. Matt to go the long way around. Otsazito brave under brakes his teammate, trying to put one over on the other Red Bull of Polymaki as well. Battle for 5th and 6th kicking off. Pierre Sharp getting ahead of Polymaki, riding out just behind them. As to the outside of Rivage goes the championship leader, can't find the space to get up into P2.
Yeah, Pierre Sharp righting some wrongs from qualifying and making some moves up to P5 now, so a decent start for the Ferrari man, 1st and 5th for the Scuderia as it's side by side for P5 once again as Polymaki sends it back down the inside at Pirwan like we spoke about earlier, and he's going for the move, but here comes Melwin up front for P2 and he's gone round the outside as he is up to P2. Pierre Sharp and Polymaki still battling behind. Looks like Pierre Sharp's holding on.
Red Bull's getting it from all angles. Great start from White Sheep in the Williams. Bit of contact between himself and Rideout just in the background as they head through. Corporal Frere and the Aston Martin into the gravel, just about catches the slide. Code Brown moment for the Green Machine. Rideout dropping a couple of places. Finlay helping himself. The same with Luis Matijevich. Legion getting involved as well. Look at this cluster. Through Blanchimont we fly for the first time. Rideout trying to make up for lost time. Polymaki still getting stuck in with Pierre Sharp round the outside into the bus stop chicane. Melwin Effman looking to try and nab the lead away from the pole sitter. Really clustered as once again Polymaki and Pierre Sharp can't get enough of each other, and it's just a stream of cars, a big angry gloom in the background as they barrel towards La Source at full speed. Matijevich to the inside of Rideout to hold on to position number 9. Legion just behind. Gabba's losing places. Chiquita's had a terrible start down in P14 in the Audi. Rideout dripping another one, potentially 2 as Kazil fancies it to the outside of Radion. Still side by side, expert racing from the pair of them until the Aston Martin sent flying into the pickets. Don't want to end up there sideways, and Rideout to the back of the pack.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Rideout. He's been in the wars in that first lap. He went into the gravel on lap 1 and he's off at Radion on lap 2. So down to the back, Rideout goes after getting pole in round 1. It's not gone well as Ward goes off the track as well into the gravel down to 18th, and the Haas of Kevin also making mistakes down to 18th. So it's a scruffy lap for some of these drivers at the back, and it's fully scrapping going on here as White Sheep up to P6 from P10. So a great job from the Williams man.
blink and you'll miss it stuff at the moment. Attacking, switching to defending, 2 different modes. You have to be very, very careful in interchanging extremely quickly. Ward with a beautiful move, clean around the outside of Lucas through no-name corner. But somehow, through all of that, still Otsazito leading the way, ahead of Melwin Effman and Matt, your top 3. Predestinato, Pierre Chop, great start from White Sheep in the Williams. Made up how many places? 6 places from 12th on the grid, halved his grid spot. And now looking at the back of the Ferrari of Pierre Chop with some very racy attitudes there. To the outside, it'll be at the bus stop chicane. Pierre Chop to the left-hand side as we look at it. But White Sheep doesn't fancy that one, trying to hang it all the way around the outside. Polymachi under pressure from Finlay, who's one of a number of drivers starting on the hard compound of tyre. This is the move into turn 1, differing battery strategies. Melwin shapes out. Melwin throws it to the inside. Otsazito defenses around the outside. A little bit of contact perhaps between the Alpine and the Ferrari. And still eyeball to eyeball, are they? No, it's Melwin Effman in the ascendancy for the time being. But Otsazito does bail out of it into Eau Rouge and Radion.
Yeah, Matt was looking, pressuring Melwin, but it looks like the battery situations are different as Otsazito is going back for it. The Red Bull is also pressuring, but here comes the Cadillac of Predestinato going for it, and he's going to go to the race lead, but can Melwin hold on to that? Melwin on the outside and holds that position, but Predestinato from 4th all the way up to 2nd, saving up that battery and using it to his advantage.
Very briefly, 4 wide down the Kemmel Straight. Suddenly Otsazito in the thick of the action now with Matt still for company. White Sheep from 12th now to the top 5 despite running slightly wide there. Through no-name corner, Pierre Chop and Polymachi still very much in the fray. Then comes Finlay doing a good job on the hard compound tyre. Matijevic poor start on his hard tyres down to P10. Chiquita trying to make up for lost time as well, as that is Finlay to the outside. Yes, it is. Having to go the long way around. You'll get the benefit because you get the inside of turn 13 into 14. We fly with the Papaya McLaren using those hard compound tyres that look like they've got a bit of energy now. We've had a couple of tours of the circuit.
Yeah, that's a great move for Finlay. That's pretty crucial. He's on the hards, which should probably be the worst tyre to be on at the moment, but he's still making moves and he's still in this front train. So watch out for Finlay going in to the later stints of this race.
Here comes Matt to the outside of Otsazito, who might think attack is the best form of defence because Predestinato has to get his elbows out. Matt's still there, just hovering up the inside to the outside, ducking and weaving behind Otsazito. Still as we were, first down to 6th as Finlay still with Polymachi to deal with. They did very briefly as we see Matt jinking over to the right-hand side, trying to spook Otsazito into the braking zone. Very briefly, we saw this top group of 8 drivers pull a gap of over a second to Legion in the Williams. That has evaporated. The Williams back on the haunches of Polymachi. You can see there 0.6 per second, very much still in the game. No brakes in the train as things stand. Looks a little bit calmer towards the front, but Finlay's got a rampaging Red Bull to deal with down the Kemmel Straight. Luis Matijevic looking to pull a fast one on Legion as well. Has to be the outside for Polymachi. Careful you don't run into the rear of Pierre Chop in front. Finlay's going to fight this one hard. Now with the inside into turn 9, and he does for the time being keep Polymachi at bay. Will he continue it down into Rivage? Does have a little look, does Polymachi. Can't slide the Red Bull far enough alongside.
Yeah, I think the mediums are still for sure the better tyre, but it was just great racecraft from Finlay to make that move on Polymachi, therefore getting put under pressure by Polymachi throughout these laps as Polymachi less than a tenth almost pushing Finlay around the track at the moment. As here comes Matt on Otsazito down into turn 11, and it's going to be pretty close. Matt holding on to that position, but Otsazito, your pole sitter, down to 4th, but still pressuring, still showing some pace and potential up in 3rd.
Matt went really wide through the first part of the Fania chicane, then found himself parked on the apex of the second part, catching Otsazito slightly by surprise as the Ferrari gave the Red Bull a bit of a love tap through turn 14. Now heading towards Blanchemont, Predestinato gaining up to the back of the leader Melwin Effman. Otsazito doing the same. Melwin just hovering in the middle of the road. Predestinato making his intentions fairly clear and obvious too. Then comes Matt and Otsazito. Kazizel in the second McLaren gets the better of Matijevic in the battle for 9th and 10th. Both of them have disposed of the Williams of Legion, but it's still Melwin Effman ahead of Predestinato, Matt and Otsazito.
Yeah, Predestinato looking pretty good, pressuring Melwin and just keeping Melwin on his toes here. Of course, Melwin having a good start, making those moves on Otsazito and then holding off Predestinato as he kept on making moves. As Otsazito looking strong and looking to be pressuring Matt. He keeps on gaining in that slipstream. He's going to go down the inside here in Lake Kuma. It looks like Matt is letting him go. So Otsazito up to 3rd. Matt choosing not to battle that. And Otsazito now sights set on Predestinato.
Happy to hand that one over for the time being, thinking about lap 21 rather than lap 5. Still Kazizel having it out with Matijevic. Bit of contact there. There's a big slide as well for Legion going through the exit of Rivage. The McLaren gets the upper hand against his Mercedes engine counterpart. Look at that, Matt getting it from all angles now. Otsazito through, White Sheep through as well, although the Williams sliding wide in the second part of Puon. Rolls out the red carpet, not just for the Red Bull, but for the Scarlet Ferrari too. Back we go under braking into the Fagnes chicane. Matt giving the cold shoulder. Pierre Charp on all the wrong parts of the racetrack through 13 and 14. Invites Finlay into the contest too. But it's real elbows out racing here from White Sheep. Spotted a gap, sent it down the inside, and Matt with absolute jot that he could do about it.
Yeah, he fully sent that, and he's reaped the rewards up to P4. Matt pressuring White Sheep though, so Matt showing pace but just falling behind the grid in racecraft. He looks like he is going to retake that position after White Sheep did use a lot of battery, and he's now under pressure. But here comes Finlay down the inside on Pierre Sharp. That's going to be pretty close. Down in the bus stop chicane, Finlay still trying to make moves on those hard compound tyres. It looks like they are really coming into their own now, with the mediums slowly degrading.
Oh, big move from Kazizel down the inside. Could be 3 wide. Could slam into his teammate. Could slam into Polymaki. The Papaya car's working in tandem. Polymaki ghosting on the outside means that he has to hand it over to Kazizel. Polymaki slips down a further spot into 9th place. Matijevic next on the hit list. As with the Aston Martin and not Barluluk very close to the back of Chiquita coming out of Eau Rouge. Further forward, Predestinato close. Predestinato having a look to the inside. They've dropped the group behind. White Sheep getting back ahead of Matt, but they're a second and a half suddenly off the back of the leading trio. Alarm bells very much ringing for this secondary chasing group. Pierre Charp, Finlay, Kazizel. One of the McLarens pulls out to the right-hand side. That is Finlay to the inside of Pierre Charp, who has to hang it out around the outside of Rivage. A little bit of tyre-to-tyre contact. Is Pierre Charp the cold shoulder over the curb, and Finlay to P6 now.
Yeah, Matt ran out of battery down the Kemmel straight, and that cost this middle pack around 0.5 of a second, which meant they were out of their second region. So really not ideal for White Sheep and Matt. But yeah, Matt just running out of battery on that Kemmel straight, trying to get back past White Sheep, and that's really cost them.
The McLarens charging on these hard compound tyres, both of them pulling punchy moves, definitely in the ascendancy compared to the medium runners. White Sheep has burnt a little bit of ERS to get himself back on equal kind of footing with that leading trio. Might need a little bit of help from the group behind, because he's dropping that time once again as we watch Kazizel almost pushing Pierre Charp through. Blanchemont ducks out to the left. Pierre Charp still with a little bit of overspeed, looking every which way to slide his car. He chooses the inside to the bus stop. A little bit of a bump and grind as they head through the second part of the chicane, trying to muscle his way through. I think still side by side over the line. There goes Otsazito just in the foreground to the inside of Predestinato to take second place. Here's Kazizel to the inside of Pierre Charp. Matijevic around the outside of Polymaki. Little bit of lag going on, but is Polymaki losing another spot?
Yeah, Polymaki went full send down the inside there at turn 1, but it just didn't quite work for him. He went in to Louis Matijevic. So yeah, not ideal for him, as Matt and White Sheep are fighting. Predestinato looking close as well into Leicum. He's going to go for the lead. He went for Otsazito. He's looking for Melwin, but Predestinato up to P2. He's really likes those moves into Leicum, using that battery, using the slipstream to really fight and pressure the front runners. As here comes Pierre Sharp for P7 on Kazizel. Kazizel, of course, making that move, but Pierre Sharp not leaving, not wanting to lose that position too easily, but he eventually has had to surrender that move because Kazizel was on those better hard compound tyres now.
Finlay to P4 also. Otsazito bearing down the back of Predestinato into the Fagnes chicane, and the Cadillac with a bit of desyncing going on again. Thank you, EA Service, for that one. Almost looked like he'd thrown it into the gravel, but Otsazito still just has to bide his time and wait behind the American outfit. But Finlay rampaging through at the moment, looking very strong. Those hard tyres working like an absolute dream at this stage for both of the McLaren cars. Matijevic trying to make progress too, because he's once again now applying the blowtorch to White Sheep through Blanchimont. Will it be McLaren 4-6 now, as he's almost pushing the Williams right up underneath the rear wing and down the inside into the bus stop? Should be fairly standard. Does White Sheep fight it? Couple of cars choosing to box at the end of the lap. Given a shoulder barge off the road is Kazizel, who keeps his foot in it. Still just got a little bit alongside White Sheep down into La Source. Surely if you're White Sheep here, you want to hand this one over. Kazizel going to be quicker at this stage. Do not want to ruin your own race fighting a faster car. That is P4 now on the road for Kazizel, but 1.2 off the back of Finley. I think we're probably going to see some trading blows down the Kemmel straight with White Sheep flying back past the McLaren.
Yeah, I'm surprised White Sheep fought that so hard because they've just lost lots of time there. So really not ideal for White Sheep and Kazizel, as here comes Polymarki using a lot of battery but just running out there as Kazizel has to form a little bit of a defensive move. Really not ideal for their chances to fight this front pack, as Finley all over the back of Otzozito, in fact going for that move down into turn 10, so he is looking extremely strong at this point and up to P2 at the moment. Of course, Pedestinato boxing, but there's Matijevic off the road into gravel.
Matijevic went for it around the outside of Poo on contact between himself and White Sheep, who's now at the mercy of the Red Bull of Polymaki. Not Barlow Luke also in this fight on the hard tyres. Off the road goes the Aston Martin, looking for a space to pick up one, maybe two places. Polymaki on the outside will turn to the inside of the second part of the Fania chicane. Somehow White Sheep still at the head of this little group. Mercedes wide in the background and Matijevic once more. Luke up to sixth head of Polymaki. Yellow flags out. It's Kazizel. Kazizel within the wall. No, he's dropped it. Coming out of Stavolo 1. Maybe dipping a couple of tyres into the grass. Although he's got a 10-second penalty for contact with Lucas. I don't think that was the cause of the incident. As you can see, the Racing Bull's just up the road. Back to this almighty bare knuckle brawl. We're three wide on the run up into the bus stop. It's Luke on the outside, giving the two on the inside. A lot of free real estate, very late on the brakes. Slightly out of shape is Polymaki, who dives into the pits along with White Sheep. That gives Luke a free ride along with Jakita, Matijevic and Volokongan. They're 3 seconds off the back of the leaders now, with Finlay shaping up, you would think, to try and take the lead in not too long.
Yeah, I'm surprised Melwin and Otzozito didn't respond to Pedestinato as Kazizel retires into the pit lane. So unfortunate day for him, making that mistake and really costing him. But here comes Finley then. He's going to go for it, but so does Otzozito. He's going to use his battery. It's almost going to be three wide, but Finley goes for that move around the outside and he's got that move done. Otzozito looks for it a little bit around the outside. Melwin goes wide, goes a bit deep and has to hold off Otzozito just about, but it's clear to see that the mediums are clearly struggling at the moment.
Yeah, those hard tyres, very much the compound you want to be on at this stage. The problem for Melwin and Otzozito is how much they're going to be undercut by those drivers who pitted 1 or 2 laps ago. Predestinato leading that charge, got a 1.5 seconds in hand over Matt just behind, so done a really decent job on his outlap, the Cadillac, to drop the Red Bull. Pierre Sharp, 0.5 seconds off the back of Matt. Yellow flag is for Kazizel, who's the first to jump out of the session, first retiree so far of the Grand Prix. Then you've got Polymaki, White Sheep, Legion, all on their brand new hard compound tyres. Legion coming in a lap earlier, right up on the haunches of his teammate. Maybe, I thought they were potentially about to be side by side into Pouon. I will just keep watching these two Williams cars because Legion looking to try and get a shift on here. White Sheep has to go defensive. Legion to the outside of the Fania chicane. Space not found as we continue as we were. Polymaki from White Sheep from Legion just behind them, or 3 seconds back down the road, I should say, is Ward Abishala and then Kevin heading up the snake at the very back. Finlay will definitely carry on. And there we go. Melwin Effman in. Otzozito too.
Yeah, it's going to be very intriguing to see where these guys come back out on track. I suspect it's going to be pretty painful when they come out on track, but will they reap the rewards when they overcut these drivers, get on better tyres and reap the rewards right at the end of this race? It's going to be really interesting to see because these two have been right at the front of the field fighting. So they're going to be in this traffic. It's going to be a question of can they get through this traffic without any problems.
There is Predestinato, your net race leader as things stand. Chiquita through on Luke. Matt with the two Ferraris now right up behind him. Otzozito just emerged from the pits. Might be under a little bit of pressure from his teammate Pierre Sharp. What order are you going to be in here? Is it defence or is it attack? Is Otzozito on the offensive? Matt could get gobbled up by a couple of Italian stallions here. To the inside goes Otzozito. Pierre Sharp dangles the nose to the inside of the turn 7. The first part of Lake Chicane keeps his foot in it. Really muscly move from Pierre Sharp to barge his way past Matt. Really bold there as he kept his foot in it. Daggers on his elbows. He manages to put one over on Matt and push him down the spot. Matijevic getting stuck in with Luke. That's through Pouon. Mercedes through on the Aston Martin just for the time being. Hold that thought. I thought he was about to throw it back around the outside of the chicane. Volokongan and Chiquita just ahead. And then it's Finlay, who's 4.5 seconds up the road. Looking very nice at this stage, but he's still got to run those substandard medium tyres, let's not forget.
Yeah, it's got to be said. I'm pretty surprised that Melwin and not Zito didn't lose more time than they have, because they're still in the train with Predestinato, which is the provisional P1. So they really haven't lost that much time, and they have 2-lap fresher tyres, which a track like Spa, that's going to be costing a lot. So yeah, very good for Otzazito and Melwin, and they will surely have more pace than Predestinato going into this last stint.
Luke battling away with Matijevic. This is Pierre Chup still getting stuck in with Matt, trying the up and under, trying the cutback to find his way back past the Ferrari that lies in front of him, using a bit of ERS, you would imagine, to get this overspeed down into La Source. Little bit tentative on the brakes though, allows Pierre Chup to keep it around the outside. Lighting up the rear tyres will put paid to that attack as well. So Pierre Chup with Matt firmly in his back pocket at the moment.
Yeah, Matt is really struggling with the battery, using the battery this race. He's just really struggling to find a battery on the Kemmel Straight, and it's really costing him at times. So he's not able to attack, but who is able to attack is Otzazito, looking pretty close to Melwin, just not showing a move just yet. But White Sheep up to 15th, overtaking Legion. He's got 1 lap fresher tyres than his teammate Legion. So White Sheep will be looking to really fight these front runners. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be all about how these hard runners can do in this free. Finley is definitely still in this race on those mediums right at the end. Let's see how he can do, if he can overcome the traffic and really fight for the front positions, because he really showed some pace to be fighting for those front positions in the first stint.
The problem for Finlay is that, let's say he comes in maybe in 3 or 4 laps time, 14 or 15, he leaves himself 7 or 8 laps, and he's going to have to do a hell of a lot of overtaking. This is the problem when the undercut's so powerful. You lose a lot of track position 1, and you lose a lot of overall race time, at least in the short term as well. So he might come out, maybe 10 seconds off the back of this group. You're going to have to try and catch up to them, using those medium tyres, which aren't particularly good. And then by the time, if indeed he gets to that lead group, is he going to have the tyres to work his way back through? Predestinato under pressure from Melwin and from Otzazito. Pierre Chup still having to deal with both Red Bull cars of Matt and Polymaki, the 2 Williams, back within a second of this group 2. And will we see Melwin Effman try and take the net race lead back? White Sheep with the fastest lap of the race so far. It's Predestinato, Melwin, Otzazito, Chup, Matt, Polymaki, White Sheep and Legion all line astern. 10th place down to 16th. 7 cars in this train. A little bit 2x2 with the Ferraris. 8 cars, in fact, in this train. The Alpines, the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, then the Alpine and the Cadillac, who might get gobbled up here because he's being pushed down the Kemmel Straight by an Alpine and a Ferrari. Pulling out to the middle of the road goes Melwin Effman. Otzazito, does he make it 3 wide? No, he chooses just to follow in the footsteps of Melwin. Couple of places handed over by Predestinato. 2-lap older tyres. It's Melwin Effman back to the net race lead ahead of Otzazito, then Predestinato.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, it looks like Melwin and Otzazito are going to be the front runners here for the race win at the moment, unless anything different happens, because they have the best tyres out of this front pack. Everyone behind Otzazito has got worse tyres. So yeah, Melwin and Otzazito did a great job to overcut these drivers and get into the provisional race lead. So yeah, a great job from there. And just to touch on Finley again, I think it's going to be really tough for him, but I do think the mediums are going to be pretty strong. So I think he can. The alternate strategy was always going to be a hard strategy to really extract anything from, but I still think he can really do something with that strategy. But we'll have to wait and see. As Jakita and Volokonen fighting, Jakita deciding to pee into the pits. That's pretty early to get onto those mediums.
Yeah, so currently about 16 seconds, just under, is the gap between Finlay and Melwin. Very wide into the bus stop goes Predestinato, very much on the back foot. I think was defending staunchly from the attack of the Ferrari of Pierre Chup. Matt still hovering just behind the 2 of them. Little jink to the inside as well, trying to make his intentions clear to the Ferrari of Pierre Chup. Polymaki watching and waiting behind them as well. I think it's going to be Predestinato concentrating on what's behind rather than in front, because he looks to be struggling for a bit of pace and battery management. Nearly 9/10 off the back of Melwin and Otzazito, who are side by side and could be trading places as well. Through goes Pierre Chup. Is it both Ferraris on the move? Yes, and they're certainly in the groove, although the move for Otzazito not quite done. But it's Melwin Effman bailing out of that one, lifting off early into the Les Combes chicane. And Otzazito, the pole sitter, now back to the front of the stop brigade. The one-stop brigade is the guys that have pitted so far. Pierre Chup to 3rd in the train. Then Predestinato, who's starting to just go a little bit further backwards lap by lap than the two Red Bulls.
Yeah, Otsazito has done a good job to reclimb back up this grid. Of course, he dropped down to P4, but he's just shown the pure pace that he showed in qualifying. And yeah, he's just showing some really good pace up into provisional P1. But Melwin is definitely still in this. And I think it's going to go all the way to the line for this race win, because Melwin has shown very good pace. And with the slipstream and with the boost that he will inherit next lap, he will still be able to get very close to Otsazito, so I expect this battle to rage on right into the dying stages.
And it was that little breakaway, wasn't it, at the very end of that first stint when, along with Finlay, Melwin and Otsazito were able to just put a little bit of distance between themselves and the group behind, also get dragged along by Finlay for a couple of laps as Otsazito deep into the bus stop chicane might put him under pressure down into La Source. But that gave them the opportunity to stay out a couple more laps, give themselves that tyre offset without really losing anything. Yes, they're back in the train. They've got a real leg up over their opponents as Matt looks to the outside of La Source. Predestinato under pressure once again, both of them lighting up the rear tyres, along with Polymaki just in the background. Is this going to be yet another spot lost for Predestinato? 4 positions lost in the last 3 and a bit laps is this for the Cadillac driver on the 6-lap-old hard compound tyres, pitted earlier than everybody else in the train apart from Matt. Melwin back through on Otsazito, and it's actually the two Red Bulls going into combat. Polymaki to the outside had a little think about it, trying to take 10th place on the road away from his teammate.
Yeah, Matt is really struggling with the battery in this race. He once again was onto 0% on that Kemmel straight, so that is absolutely unacceptable if you want to be making up positions. He's using too much out of La Source, and he is making him very vulnerable onto the Kemmel straight, where he's completely run out of battery. So he is extremely vulnerable to the likes of Polymaki, his teammate, who has saved up that battery and is able to use some on the Kemmel straight, but it wasn't quite enough that lap. But will it be enough this lap? He is absolutely all over his teammate here, and he's almost pushing him around turn 13 and 14. So Polymaki looking strong, Matt falling behind just a slight bit.
Yeah, Matt massively under pressure here, as is this group as a whole, because Melwin and Otsazito just trying to stretch their legs a little bit. They've broken the 1 second gap to Pierre Charp just behind. It means the Ferrari won't get the blue overtake boost mode, which could be curtains for their opportunity. Do not want to let Melwin and Otsazito cruise off into the sunset and leave it as an exclusive battle of 2 for the race win here in Belgium. Still Matt massively under the cosh. Melwin fastest lap of the race as Gabbers and Luis Matievich get off their hard compound tyres to transfer onto the mediums. The 2 Williams drives lost touch to this group of leaders. The lead group of cars, let's not forget, still yet to stop Finlay, Volokongen and Ryderdal. That gap that was about 16 seconds now 12 and a bit up to 13 between Finlay and the net race leader Melwin Effman. Combined in Melwin Effman and Volokongen. But here we go with the Red Bulls. Is this finally the time for Polymaki? 1 lap fresher tyres. Matt ducks back into the slipstream. I don't think he's going to send it back around the outside. Would be unwise to do so. That is a position picked up for Polymaki. Next on the list will be Predestinato, who struggled for the last few laps. Then the 2 Ferraris with Pierre Charp having to work extremely hard just to keep touch, to cling onto the coattails of Melwin and Otsazito up the road.
Yeah, Melwin and Otsazito absolutely flying. Melwin, of course, at that fastest lap. That's quite a statement, and that is going to be mentally quite challenging for the likes of Otsazito and Pierre Charp, because Melwin is showing some serious pace out front in provisional P1. So yeah, he's really showing some pace. Pierre Charp dropping back, but that's pretty natural. I think they've got 2 lap older tyres than Otsazito and Melwin, so pretty naturally struggling there. So it looks like it's going to be a 2-way fight unless Finley can do anything. But I'm surprised that he hasn't boxed yet, Finley, because he's only got 7-8 laps to go in this race as he does come into the box this time out. So he's going to have around 8 laps to really use those mediums.
Less than that, isn't it? 7 laps maybe? Yeah, 7 laps to try and catch up to this group. Lots of work that Finlay's going to have to do on some medium tyres that aren't exactly great. We've got the other medium runners starting to make waves. Chiquita caught up to the back of the 2 Williams guys with not Barlulu in there with them too. Luis Matievich with the first penalty of the race, 3 seconds for corner cutting. Not good news when he's trying to pick up A couple of points, big slide out of La Source for lead. You could just see Finlay up the road, only about a second and a half off the back of the leaders. The two Williams trade blows. That's White Sheep, 1 lap fresher tyres, getting the better of his teammate. On board with the Audi of Chiquita just behind. Luke in the thick of this fight too. They'll be looking to try and dispose of both Williams cars, almost on the grass on the run into the Kemmel straight. Otsazito takes the lead back. White Sheep moving around on the straight. Now to the inside of Les Combe Chicane, committed from Chiquita. Couple of taps of contact. White Sheep keeps the Audi behind just for now. Then it's Leeds who I think is going to be on the defensive. Yes, here comes Luke down into Rivage. This should be fairly straightforward with the tyre advantage, and that is position number 10 for the Green Machine. Further forward though, and Finlay's already on the back of the train.
Yeah, Finlay is looking pretty strong. I think he has definitely got a podium in his sights here. That podium potential is definitely a chance here for Finlay, because he's got the mediums, he's got the fresher tyres, so he is probably going to make easy work of these first few, because Matt 8-lap older tyres than Finlay and on older hard tyres, so yeah, they're going to be really struggling. Finlay looking strong, Polymarchi looking on the back on Predestinato here for P4. It's pretty close for Polymarchi. He does go for the move, and that is a great move from Polymarchi. Now he's looking on the back of Pierre Sharp, but has he used enough battery, or has he saved up enough battery, to fight against Pierre Sharp or to defend against Predestinato?
I got so excited, I kicked the monitor, or I kicked the desk, and that took the power cable out and we lost signal. But I think we're back now, which is ideal. Everybody else, including me, was looking at a black screen that just said Elgato. So there you go, you got some free advertising, Elgato. Hopefully you use that and milk it for us. Anyway, 6 laps to go, just there, that's Chiquita, almost on the grass, to the inside goes Luke, picks up a 3-second penalty for his troubles as he tried to force the issue with White Sheep. Further forward, Finlay gets 1. That's 1 off the list. Matt already disposed of Predestinato behind Polymarchi and Pierre Sharp. Battling very hard for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Final spots on the podium, but I think they've got a feisty-looking McLaren that's pretty close to trying to take a couple of places already to the inside of Predestinato into Rivage. This should be elementary, my dear friend, and it absolutely is. That McLaren on the charge.
Yeah, Finlay absolutely flying at the moment. I'm not surprised if he'll go for some moves in this middle sector. There's a yellow flag for Gabbers down to 15th for him, but Finlay flying, overtaking Pierre Sharp here for P4, down at turn 13, and Finlay up to 4th just like that, and he's looking in his sights for podium Polymarchi, and then will he have enough pace to fight for P1 and 2? I think that's a little bit too much for the McLaren man, but he is indeed showing some crazy pace.
3 seconds is the gap, the margin that he needs to try and overcome once he disposes of Polymarchi. But will he have the tyres once he gets there? Mediums weren't particularly strong in the first stint. Predestinato still battling away with Pierre Sharp to the outside, 2x2 into the bus stop. The Cadillac gets out of it. Pinley does go the long way around though, and gets ahead of Polymarchi. And that is the Red Bull kicked out of the podium places. The lead changes hands as well. Another yellow flag thrown in the final sector. Melwin through on Otsazito. I think it's Rydal potentially who's had a trip off the road. Maybe somebody else. Kevin with a penalty. Must have been the Haas then. And yes, second retiree of the race. So we're down to 17. Melwin from Otsazito. But they've got a third contender. And these guys at the moment, got to be a bit of a stalemate, you would think. Have to work together to try and stop Finlay from catching them, because if he has got this tyre offset and those medium tyres do keep working, could get dragged into the fray if he doesn't get gobbled up down the straight. Through comes the Ferrari, to the outside goes Polymarchi. That is not what Finlay needed with 5 laps to go. Wobble for Pierre Sharp on the run down into Malbany, contact not once but twice. Finlay onto the gravel, loses the back of the car, slides over the curb and hands out a couple of places, freebies to Predestinato and to Matt as well, and that's probably the race run for Finlay trying to get his second win of the season.
Yeah, definitely. He was absolutely in the mix there, but he got swallowed up into Les Combe, and Finlay down to 7th, getting beached onto that curb down at turn 9. So yeah, really frustrating for Finlay. He was looking extremely pacey, extremely rapid, and he was looking to fight for the win. But yeah, that is really not ideal, and that will probably be it, because Polymarchi is going to continue to lose time to Otsazito and Melwin, and by the time Finlay carves his way back through, it's going to be too much to gain in the dying laps of this race.
Got to make another 4 overtakes even before he gets to the front of this train once again. All of that hard work from the last few laps completely undone by that little bit of contact going through Malmedy. Now to the inside of the first part of the bus stop, trying to make up for lost time, getting one over on Matt, keeps it around the outside. This will be a really classy move if he pulls it off. That'll be peacocking for a while. Really nice from Finlay, picks up the first of the overtakes for the second time around. Now he has to deal with a man that caused him a few issues around about this time a lap ago. Pierre Sharp, battle for 5th and 6th. Polly Mackie to the front of this group. Predestinato, oldest tyres, along with Pierre Sharp and Matt. Can Finlay pull off, well, something spectacular to try and force the issue here? Polly Mackie looks a little bit out of reach. What's the battery situation looking like for Finlay? There's not a lot left in the tank. Volokong into P8 at the expense of Chiquita behind. Season 41 champ. Looks like he's picking up a couple of points. But Finlay bogged down, mired here in this secondary chasing peloton.
Yeah, Finley's going to be driving in anger as he goes down the inside at turn 10. That's going to be pretty close. A bit of contact. Finley on the inside, just making that move stick. He's going to be on the outside now. Pierre Sharp decides to back out just about. Finley up to P5 now. But yeah, he's going to be driving in anger at the moment because he was looking good to be catching Otsazito and Melwin to get his second win of the season. But yeah, not to be with that incident down at Lake Coombe. And if he can get some more moves down in the second sector efficiently, then don't put him out for a podium. I think a win is too far out, but Finley still making those efficient moves in that second sector. But yeah, he just can't make himself too vulnerable down to Lake Coombe, down the Kemmel Straight, because that really cost him last time.
He'll be thinking with 3 and a bit laps to go, podium bare minimum at this stage, even
Yes.
with all the trials and tribulations that have befallen him in the last couple of laps. All over the back of Predestinato through Blanchimont to the inside into the bus stop, just behind Matt trying to pull a move on Pierre Sharp as well. The Ferrari holds on to P6. Deja vu from a lap ago. This time it's the Cadillac. It was the Red Bull and Matt on lap 20. It's going to be Predestinato at the end of lap 20. Volokong with the fastest lap. Finlay to the inside of La Source. And that is a very nice move once again. Predestinato giving the cold shoulder. Pierre Sharp, I think, saying thank you very much for that. Almost a red carpet rolled out for the Scarlet Ferrari. As still with a nose in there, foothold in the battle, but not into Rouge and Radion. That's a camera angle I've never seen on this game before. Looked absolutely marvellous. Predestinato still under the cosh here, though, because here comes the Ferrari powering to the left-hand side. Has Finlay got anything left to try and take third place, give himself a chance to run away into the middle sector? The answer is a firm yes. Pierre Sharp to the outside of Predestinato, turns to the inside, and that is a beautiful move too. Pierre Sharp up to P5 at the expense of Predestinato, who's now left to contend with Matt, who has a little look perhaps to the inside of Rivage, does bring Predestinato into missing his braking point ever so slightly. But Finlay now finally back to the front of this train, but surely with way too much work to do to try and win this one.
Yeah, moves made in Lake Coombe's there, and it works for Finley up onto the podium. But yeah, like you said, a little bit too little, too late now with that that incident down at Lake Coombe. It's going to be too big of a mountain to climb, as his tyres are probably starting to wear. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think 3 seconds in 2 laps, 3 laps is going to be a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, done a good job to get back on the podium, and I think he'll be relatively happy with that. A little bit frustrated in the back of his mind because there was a potential there for fighting for the win.
And you wonder if Volokong, who's only a second and a half back down the road, is thinking if these guys fight hard, maybe there's an opportunity to snaffle a couple of late moves also. Predestinato attack and defence into the same braking zone. Thought about it on Pierre Sharp as he was trying to hold off an attack from Matt just behind. Now he's out of juice as he cuts the beam to start the penultimate lap. Matt to the outside of La Source. That's not going to work, but here comes the up and under. Give himself the blast of the run out of La Source, right up on the tail of the Cadillac as they head up towards Eau Rouge and Radion corner for the penultimate time. Melwin still with the lead, 2/10 per second, separating himself and Otsazito. Finlay's going to come under pressure from the duo behind. Otsazito firstly, happy to wait behind Melwin, but once again, Finlay gobbled up down the straight. Can he be brazen into the braking zone? You bet he can be brazen into the braking zone, using those medium tyres to keep Polly Mackie at arm's length.
Yeah, Polymaki used the slipstream, used the battery to really gain, but here comes Pierre Sharp down the inside for P4 at the moment. Pierre Sharp making that move stick as Polymaki backs out of that move, and Pierre Sharp in the Ferrari P4, P2 and P4 for the Scuderia at the moment. But here comes Polymaki back down the inside at Pilon, and these battery games are surely going now as Pierre Sharp is going to fight back now down to turn 13, and he is going to make that move once again. The yo-yo racing is in full force here.
Well, that was a pocket pincher from Pierre Sharp, only to run out of battery. Polymaki come back through. And then once again, Yo-Yo racing for the third time. As Pierre Sharp said, I'll have this back, thank you very much. Just over a lap to go. Melwin Effman versus Otsazito for the win. Finlay trying to cling on to this final spot on the podium. Got the tyre advantage, not necessarily the battery advantage, as Polymaki for the fourth time trading places with Pierre Sharp on this tour. They've got to be careful they don't slam into the McLaren, into the brake zone as they try to outbrake each other. And it's Polymaki who gets it very wrong, taking a trip into the runoff area. 3-second penalty for his troubles as well. And will allow Predestinato to file on through also and be embroiled in a battle with his teammate down into La Source. It's Predestinato on the inside. Matt ducking, weaving, looking for the space. Polymaki trying to get any kind of dignity back, but he's got Matt and now Volakongan on the fresh medium tyres to try and deal with. Returning to the leaders though, championship leader versus pole sitter, just under 4/10 per second. What has Otsazito got left in the battery pack for this first real opportunity on the last lap of the race? 4 seconds the margin behind. Otsazito with nothing left yet. I think that was a Red Bull pushed onto the grass. Matt trying to get one over on his teammate. Still Finlay from Pierre Chart from Predestinato. The 2 Red Bulls and Volakongan.
Yeah, that was a critical mistake from Polymaki down at the bus stop chicane. He made that mistake going wide, losing time, and then a 3-second for his troubles. So yeah, Polymaki down to P6. That penalty is going to really cost him. But Melwin back to the front. He's done a great job to hold on to that. But can Otsazito do anything to fight Melwin? Otsazito, of course, taking pole. We'll have to charge that battery to see if he can do anything against Melwin down into the bus stop chicane.
Polymaki finally undone. Matt through on the road, would have inherited the place anyway. Volakongan to the inside of the first part of Stavolo. Wasn't quite far enough to slide it past. Looks like it's going to be Finlay versus Pierre Chart for the final spot on the podium. What have these guys got left though? It is Alpine versus Ferrari. Yellow flag at the back of the pack. Just one braking zone left to negotiate. Otsazito gaining, he's charging. The Italian stallion gallops around the outside. Has he got it wrong into the braking zone? We can't see because of the camera. Otsazito off the road. And that will mean it is back-to-back wins for Melwin Effman to the flag. Just behind his teammate getting embroiled with Finlay. That'll be a drag race to the line as well. And it comes up the side of Scarlett. It is a Ferrari 2-3 with Pierre Sharp just beating out Finlay to the line. Predestinato also with a drag race with Matt to the flag. Holds on to P5 ahead of Volakongan, season 41 champ, first appearance of the season. Qualified badly but finishes well. Polymaki with a penalty, pushed down to 8th ahead of White Jeep and Jakiti your top 10. What a grandstand finish that was. Annoyingly, we didn't see it because the camera cut to the start-finish line shot too early. But it was Otsazito who definitely went balls to the walls, I think, into the final breaker zone at the bus stop. Threw it round the outside with nothing to lose. Couldn't quite get it stopped in time. And that means it is Melwin Effman. He won in China, and now he wins in Spa.
Yeah, definitely. Otsazito fully went for that, but it didn't quite work out for Ferrari, man. He just went on the outside. It was a little bit like Polymaki on the outside, just outbroke himself just slightly, and it really cost him there. So Otsazito in P2, he's going to be relatively happy with that, but just a little bit frustrated because he got pole position, of course, but wasn't able to hold on to that. So yeah, Otsazito still gets that podium, and it's a double podium for Ferrari, P2 and P3, and that was quite the race for Pierre Sharp, up 4 positions from P7 on the grid to take the podium. So a great job from him, but it's got to be a great job for Melwin, winning once again. Not as dominant fashion as last time out, but still got the job done, showcasing some great racecraft, and your championship leader extends the gap.
Really made to work for it from 4th on the grid. Otsazito couldn't quite cling on to it. Pierre Chart making it provisionally a Ferrari 2-3. Finlay from 10th on the grid to P4 with the alternate strategy. Predestinato, Matt Volakongan, Polymaki. White Jeep and Jakiti, your point scorers. Legion just missing out by a couple of seconds. Ward Abishal and not Barluluk with a penalty. Gabbers, Ryder, Gabzer, not Gabzer, I don't know why I'm saying that. Ryder, Matievich, Lucas, Kevin and Kazizel, who was out of the equation early on. But what a great race that was, as apparently we're not going to load back into the lobby. That doesn't matter though, because we are done. And that was an exciting one, wasn't it? We've continued in the rich vein of form. Silverstone was really good to start with. China was exciting. It was box office, not necessarily the cleanest at sometimes, but that was a proper race, wasn't it? Proper duel right throughout the leading contenders. In the end, it was a 2-horse race. Could have been 3 if Finlay came through unscathed with that little tete-a-tete between himself and Pierre Chart, but nevertheless, really great racing out there. And for the most part, it was pretty clean.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would have been extremely intriguing if Finley was able to get through that unscathed, because he was showing some incredible pace, and I think he was going to have the pace to really fight for that win. And it could have been even more box office down to that bus stop chicane if he just got through that without the incident. It was just so painful because he was getting slowed up on that Kemmel Straight. We saw throughout the race so much slipstream down into coulombs. So yeah, it was a tough one for him, but up to P4 from P10. So he's going to be relatively happy with that.
Yeah, it sets up the championship nicely. Melwin Effman going into the break week is very much the form horse with back-to-back victories. But what we're seeing is there are a lot of contenders that are in and around the ballpark that can challenge, and we could have a nice little championship fight if we come back and some of those guys end up on the right side of maybe those ARS battles. I think Melwin tactically got that race spot on. Him and Ottosito, I don't think either of them did a lot wrong in that one. They got the strategy right. They got themselves into a position where they could go for that. I think it was the 2-lap overcut, give themselves a tyre offset. That then allowed them to break away. And yes, they didn't have to deal with the external threat of Finlay at the end for other reasons. But I think both of them, really good pace and really good strategical management as well.
Yeah, definitely. The 2-lap overcut was crucial in that race, and I think that was the deciding factor in terms of the fight for the win, because that gave them such a good advantage. The fact they were still in the train for the lead when they went 2 laps longer, it was just crucial because they would have so much better tyre wear than those around them to use that. They would have naturally just incredible pace. So yeah, we saw that, and we saw a very good fight. I was surprised we didn't see anything down at Lake Coombe, but I think the fight down at the bus stop chicane was worth the wait. So yeah, a great battle, and I think a deserved winner from Melwin, showing some great pace. But yeah, it was a good battle between those two.
Really interesting, wasn't it? But well, firstly, thank you for joining us on this Monday evening or afternoon or morning or whatever time it is. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, then go to sleep. I don't know why you're watching this, but thank you for hanging out and seeing what's going on anyway. If we have a look at the calendar very quickly, we are not going to be here this or next week, this time next week. Combining 2 sentences into one there. Not recommended. Have got a break week. We'll be back on the 17th of August, and that is for the Madrid GP. First time we're going to be racing there in PSGL. That's going to be an exciting one. Probably absolute bedlam as well. And it's 8 races in 8 weeks. Following that, the Red Bull Ring in Austria, Imola, Las Vegas in Sin City, Mexico City, Interlagos in the hallowed Brazilian bitumen. Then it is Bahrain. And the Circuit of the Americas to round out season 43 on October the 5th. Seems like a hell of a long time away, but it will come round very, very quickly. But thank you, everybody, like I said, for joining us on this fine Monday. Before we head out, make sure you check out PSGL socials, of course. And Ewan, where can people find you on an internet if they want to see what you're up to?
Yeah, people can find me on TikTok, Ewan_F1, and just Ewan Talks F1 on Instagram. So yeah, you'll find some F1 content on there.
Make sure you get involved. And if you're interested in what I'm doing, walker.com's on Instagram and TikTok. But absolute pleasure, as always, to bring this series to you. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, as the chaos will probably not have died down by that point. It is going to be the Madrid Grand Prix. First time we head there, and it's going to be wild. I hope you're ready, everybody. Enjoy your week off. Drivers and engineers who might be watching this one. Enjoy PC when that returns a couple of days beforehand. But until then, we'll see you very soon.